A lot of things can be said about Jack Sparrow, and of course main character sits at the center of them all. When people talk about Pirates of the Caribbean, they do talk about Jack, mostly Jack compared to every other character. He's just that good thanks to Johnny Depp's iconic performance. He's that brilliant mix of unpredictable chaos and planned chaos depending on how you view it, and something discussed by many characters around him throughout the series. He's well-rounded for someone who thinks deeper than the average pirate in the broader definition of a pirate's life. But like everyone else, he does make mistakes, or more broadly, the filmmakers sometimes make mistakes with his character. Again, I made a video before praising Jack Sparrow as the perfect pirate, but this video is about how the last film released, Dead Man Tell No Tales, infuriatingly ruined him. It was a mistake that fundamentally misunderstood who Jack Sparrow was and why anyone actually liked him to begin with. Yes, this has been covered many times before after its release, but I want to talk about it personally, because I just recently watched the movie again, and I have never been more disappointed and frustrated with a film like this for the franchise. Because there's lots to talk about here. The movie just gets so much wrong about what made the pirate franchise stand out for what it is. It's the weird side quest in an angle where piracy was already phasing out as they knew it, moving on towards colonial America, where Salazar is such a weak villain, seeking vengeance against Jack Sparrow who ruined his life, and back when Jack was the Jack we still knew. There are legitimate arguments in this that this could be a low point in his life, setting up a return to form as the captain we love by the end of the film. That could work if they ever continue the story, but it doesn't change how the previous films built the character up, nor does it properly justify this version of that very character. And what we have to note here is that Jack Sparrow from the very beginning is built up in a very specific way. Despite all the comedy, his introduction in the film is both serious and comedic at the same time. He is not an idiot, he is a chaotic force, a pirate in every sense of the word with a scallywag and scoundrel persona. His appearance is brilliant because any normal person might look at him and think he's dumb, but he's not. Yet this last film deliberately turned him into an idiot. Jack Sparrow instead becomes the myth of the worst pirate you ever heard of, and not in the fun, clever way we loved. Now, going back to where it all started in Curse of the Black Pearl, Jack Sparrow's introduction is as a man without a ship. He sails into Port Royal on a sinking dinghy, making it barely to the dock before it disappears underwater. Everything about this entrance screams bumbling idiot, from the drunken sway, the ridiculous hat, and the way he talks in circles, but that's the genius of it. From the very first scene, the film shows us the gap between how people see Jack and who he really is. Every move he makes in this film is calculated even when it looks completely chaotic. He's always 3 steps ahead, being serious inside, playing the fool while reading the room, manipulating situations, and turning every disadvantage into an opportunity. He's not just surviving, he's scheming, where he's bartering, lying, and negotiating, fighting dirty. But there's always a plan, or at least the appearance of a plan, where he's a pirate through and through, selfish, clever, and impossible to pin down. And that's the beauty of Curse of the Black Pearl and how it builds his legend in real time. The stories about him spread throughout the world, with Captain Jack Sparrow is a name that many people already know. Sure, even then he made mistakes, but he still knows how to get back up on his feet against his own mate Barbossa. But that's never his only strength. His strength lies just as a pirate himself rather than a captain who knows and manipulates the situation in the life that he lives. And that actually cements himself at the end of the film when he gets the Black Pearl with that signature line.
Bring me that horizon.
This moment cements everything. Jack isn't just the comedic side character, he's the center of this wild, swashbuckling world. He's unpredictable but never stupid, chaotic but brilliant, a scoundrel who somehow comes out on top, doing the exact opposite of what everyone expects. And the same thing happens throughout the other films, where even in Dead Man's Chest, where people sometimes say that Jack is slipping, that he's not quite the untouchable genius from the first film, he still finds a way to manipulate situations to his hand. They are half right in the sense that he is different here, where he's on the run, edgy, frantic, and still not fully in control, but this isn't just because the writers simply wanted to make him an idiot, it's because he's facing something he can't simply weasel his way out of in Davy Jones. 13 years earlier, he made a deal in exchange for the Black Pearl and 13 years as the captain. He agreed to serve Jones for 100 years after that. Now the clock is ticking up. The Kraken is hunting him, his crew is terrified, and he must do everything within his power to stop that. And Jack in this movie is still insanely clever. To manipulate Davy Jones, he tricks him into a negotiation to tell how much his souls are worth in trading his freedom, recruiting a new crew with his usual flair while he manipulates Will, using him as leverage with his father on the ship in service of Davy Jones, tricking Norrington at the same time, and coming up with the insane plan to locate the dead man's chest so he can stab Jones' heart and control the beast himself.
You actually were telling the truth.
I do that quite a lot.
Yet people are always surprised.
He's thinking several moves ahead here as always, but at the same time, the pressure is immense. He's desperate, where you could see it in his eyes, in the faster pace of his speech, in the way that he believes himself so, and trying to get Elizabeth on his side. The major plot points all revolve around his death. He sails to Tortuga, gets chased across the island, ends up in a giant whale fight, and has to make the impossible choices. Even his failures come from being hunted by a literal supernatural force of nature, and not from suddenly forgetting how to be Jack Sparrow. And this is key, he is never portrayed as stupid in Dead Man's Chest. He's desperate, he's overwhelmed, he's scared, he's a man who spent years on the run with pure wit and charm. Now he's run into the one enemy who doesn't care about it either, even as he did weasel his way out again. Desperation is not the same as incompetence here. The film still respects his intelligence, it just puts him in a situation where intelligence alone might not be enough. And that's where you get to at World's End, where Jack Sparrow reaches his high point as a character. After being rescued from Davy Jones' locker, Jack is back into form, but now he's playing on a much bigger scale. He has leverage, he understands the game, knowing Cutler Beckett and the East India Company wanted to wipe out piracy off the map forever, and uses this knowledge brilliantly. He plays both sides, negotiating with Beckett, bargaining with the pirate lords, and constantly scheming to come out on top. And in this film, he is obsessed with immortality, wanting to stab the heart of Davy Jones to become the immortal captain of the Flying Dutchman. That creates real internal conflict. Jack has always been selfish, always looking out for number one, but here we see him wrestle with something larger than himself, where this entire life is almost on the brink of extinction. Yet with all of that personal ambition, he still makes the right call when it matters most. In the final battle, when everything is chaotic and the decision is in his hands, he gives up his dream to give it to Will, to let him stab the heart and save his life, giving Elizabeth her husband in a tragic once every 10 years kind of way, where that balances out the sea alive. That moment is powerful because it shows Jack's growth without betraying who he is. He still is the same clever chaotic pirate, still scheming, still unpredictable to everyone around him, but he chooses to do something selfless for the greater good of the pirates he loves. This is Jack Sparrow when he feels like he's fully realized. The man without a ship in the first film became the pirate legend who helped save the entire age of piracy. And even on Stranger Tides, a film I don't like personally, and many agree is not nearly as strong as the earlier entries, Jack Sparrow still is Jack Sparrow. Yes, he's forced into this journey by Blackbeard, he's kidnapped, manipulated, and dragged along a journey to the quest of the Fountain of Youth, but here's the important part. Jack never stops being Jack, the clever, tactical pirate we know. He's not genuinely chasing immortality this time, he already gave that up in the last film, where he's dragged to it against his will. But what does he do in this film that's right? He manipulates the situation still, every step of the way. He plays both Blackbeard and his daughter Angelica against each other. He works with Barbossa while navigating the Spanish forces while also hunting down the fountain. He survives mermaids, zombies, and deadly traps, all the while looking for the right moment to turn the tables. And in the end, he pulls off one of his most satisfying schemes, tricking Blackbeard into sacrificing his own life for his daughter. Jack maneuvers the situation so that Angelica receives the healing powers of the fountain instead, while pulling off his attitude that seems stupid. All of this tactical cleverness is ultimately in service of one goal, getting the Black Pearl back. On Stranger Tides has plenty of problems as a movie, but it still understands the core of Jack Sparrow. He's chaotic, opportunistic, and always thinking ahead. Even when he's not the main driver of the plot, he's never reduced to a bumbling fool. Which comes now, the heart of the main problem being Dead Man Tell No Tales. By this time around, Jack is apparently at his lowest point. He's a down on his luck pirate whose crew has mostly abandoned him. His beloved Black Pearl for some reason is still trapped in the bottle, where he's broke, drunk, and struggling to pull off basic heists, or it's meant to show a man who's fallen too far. But here's the problem where the filmmakers made a critical error. Instead of writing a Jack Sparrow who's desperate, clever but cornered, or even temporarily broken but still sharp, they turned him into a genuine idiot. The chaos that once had purpose and brilliance is now just reduced to a bumbling, stumbling idiot. The quick wit was replaced by constant slapstick and drunken flailing that feels mean-spirited rather than charming. The man who used to be 3 steps ahead is now barely keeping up with the plot, which all makes no sense since we reviewed back from the second film on that he survives, but he doesn't. The villain in this film, Captain Armando Salazar, is a ghost pirate seeking revenge on a young Jack Sparrow who tricked him and his crew into the Devil's Triangle. Their backstory could have worked, but in the present day here, Jack spends most of the movie running scared, making dumb decisions, and relying on luck or other characters to survive. They lean hard into the worst pirate you've ever heard of joke, but this time it feels literal instead of ironic. Acting wise, Johnny Depp still does what he does best. He played the drunken, swaying, mumbling pirate with his eyes closed, but in Dead Man Tell No Tales, he just isn't playing Jack Sparrow anymore. He's cosplaying as him. The mannerisms are there, the voice is there, the physical comedy is turned up to 11, but the soul is missing. This Jack doesn't feel like the clever rogue who once outsmarted Davy Jones and Cutler Beckett, or even Blackbeard. He still feels like a broken man who's given up, stumbling from a once forced joke to the next, constantly trying to run away from the plot instead of steering it. He's on the run this entire movie, but not in that desperate, calculating fashion he was in Dead Man's Chest. He's just done. He doesn't want to be part of any of this, and has no real drive beyond basic survival and getting drunk. After the high on Stranger Tides, that glorious final shot where Jack finally captains the Black Pearl again, grinning at the horizon, we should have seen a man once renewed. Instead, the fifth film ignores that entire momentum completely, and what makes this film harder to swallow is how the movie gets Barbossa so right. Barbossa's final arc feels complete and satisfying. He discovers Karina is his daughter and makes the ultimate noble sacrifice with her. It's emotional, well-earned, and fits everything we knew about the character after reaching his peak with a fleet and crew that he was promised since the first film. Barbossa gets the respect he deserves, but Jack Sparrow does not. And the bigger problem runs deeper than just one bad portrayal. Even the movie itself tries to remind us who Jack used to be through the flashbacks. We see the young Jack Sparrow, clever, bold, and tactical, tricking Salazar into the Devil's Triangle, earning his legendary status, where those things work. They show us the sharp-minded Jack Sparrow that we fell in love with. The flashbacks still prove that they knew what made Jack special, but they just chose not to present it in the present-day story. Yes, we can understand Jack being at his low point. His ship is still trapped in the bottle, and he hasn't figured out how to free the Pearl, where a version of Jack struggling could have been compelling, but Dead Man Tell No Tales doesn't show a tactical genius being temporarily down on his luck. It shows a man who completely has given up, a drunkard who stumbles his way through the plot and treats everything like an inconvenience he doesn't want to deal with. This directly contradicts everything that came from before. In On Stranger Tides, Jack wasn't a captain for most of the movie. He was literally just tagging along, forced into Blackbeard's quest, yet he manipulated every situation and won the ship back through cleverness. So why does this film act like the same man from the end of On Stranger Tides would suddenly become a pathetic, checked out drunk? Getting back the Pearl at the end just doesn't fix it. A last minute victory doesn't erase the previous 2 hours of undermining the character, where Jack Sparrow doesn't magically reset to his old self the moment he touches the wheel again, even if it seems like that. And at the heart of every Pirates of the Caribbean movie, Jack Sparrow just has had one consistent goal. He wants the pirate's life, not just any life, his life. The freedom, the sea, the Black Pearl, the legend. He cares about it deeply even when he pretends he doesn't. Whether he has the ship or not, whether the odds are stacked against him or the world is trying to collect his soul, Jack fights for that life in his own chaotic way. And Dead Man Tell No Tales makes the fatal mistake of acting like Jack was never really like that. It strips away his goals, his care for the pirate's life, and his tactical nature. The film forgets or ignores that even in his lowest, the real Jack Sparrow had spark. Even if future stories try to bring back the real Jack back, the film still did damage. It blunted his image, it took away the most beloved, most layered character in modern cinema, and sanded him down to an idiot nobody wants to look at. And more than that, it actually blunted the entire point of pirates that Walt Disney originally showed to guests at Disneyland. Those pirates also weren't complete idiots. They were scoundrels, yes, but they knew exactly what they were. They wanted the pirate's life for them. And this film just didn't know what it was. It did not understand Jack, it did not understand the franchise, and because of that, it failed the character who carried the whole series on his shoulders. The Jack Sparrow we love, the brilliant, unpredictable, larger-than-life pirate, deserved better. And no matter how many times they try to reset him, that original spark is what we'll always remember. Because it's a pirate's life for us. I'm all done. Goodbye.